Hola, buenas tardes. En este video vamos a hablar de cómo formar los mandatos de vosotros. So we're going to look at making Vosotros commands in Spanish. This is something that I don't pretty much ever teach in my Spanish classes. So I thought that I'd take an opportunity to learn a little something myself and then maybe pass on some information to you along the way in case you can actually use this. So let's get to it. I'm going to give you a bunch of rules, some irregularities, and I'll give you a chance at the end to practice just to see if you've learned a little something. Okay. So for affirmative vosotros commands with regular verbs, you're just going to take the R off of the end of the verb and then add the letter D. For negatives, remove the AR, the ER, or the IR, and then add kind of like, we'll add either EIS or AIS with an accent mark over the E and the A, depending on if it's an AR, ER, or IR verb. This concept kind of goes along with the two commands. When you did two commands, when you went to the opposite, when you went to negative commands, it kind of went to the opposite endings as well. For example, typically hablar for vosotros, if it's not a command, it would be hablais with AIS. But with the negative vosotros command, you're going to take that AIS and put it on an ER, IR verb. And then for an ER verb, normally like comer would be comes, but for the command, I'm going to take that EIS and stick it on an AR verb. So here are some examples for you. The affirmative command for hablar would be hablad for vosotros, and then the negative no habléis. Comer would be comed o no comáis. Vivir, vivid o no viváis. You also often think people, or your teachers probably reference the car, gar, zar verbs. You gotta think about those also when you're doing this. So I'll give you some examples of each one of those. For a verb like tocar, you're gonna have affirmative tocar, which is regular. Negative though, you're gonna have no toques. You gotta change this C to a QU to keep the K sound in there. For jugar, you're gonna have jugad, not irregular. And in the negative, you're gonna have no juguéis. You gotta add that U in there to keep the G sound. In comenzar, you'd have comenzad, and no comencéis. Change the Z to a C. You learned when you do affirmative two commands, you have the aspondis al temen se ve. Hopefully you remember those. If you don't, no big deal. I'm going to give you some more irregular ones, So here they are. With hacer, you're going to have haced or no hagáis. Poner, poned o no pongáis. Decir, decid o no digáis. Salir, salid o no salgáis. Tener, tened o no tengáis. Venir, venid o no vengáis. Saber, no sabed o no sepáis. Y uno más, ver sería ved o no veáis. So those are some irregular ones in a negative form. If it's affirmative, it's actually not irregular at all. Let's look at reflexive verbs. For affirmative commands in vosotros form for reflexive verbs, just take the R off of the verb. For the like comer, the hablar, just take the R off and add the letters OS to it. And then the only irregularity about affirmative vosotros commands is that when you have one that ends in an IOS, for like vestirse, for example, you got to put an accent mark over the I. So I'm going to give you an example of each AR, ER, and IR right now. For apresurarse, which is like to hurry up, the affirmative command would be apresuraos. The negative would be no os apresuréis. Remember that in a negative command, any pronouns you have to go in front of the verb. For poner, you'd have poneos, or no os pongáis. Vestirse, vestios, or no os vistáis. Ignore, with regards to boot verbs, ignore boot verbs. All right, sorry if the transition there was kind of weird. Someone interrupted my recording there. If you're thinking about boot verbs, ignore the fact that it's a boot verb unless it's an IR boot verb, because if it is, then what you have to do is change the O to a U or the E to an I. For example, just a second ago I gave you the command, the vosotros command for vestirse. The affirmative, the only irregularity about the affirmative is you had to add that accent mark over the I. It was vestíos. The negative, however, is no os vistáis. You had to change the E to an I because it's a vestir is a boot verb it's an IR boot verb, so you have to make that change. I have not yet given you an example of one where you change the O to a U, so I'll do that right now. The affirmative command for morir would be morid. The negative, however, would be no muráis. You change the O to a U. I'm going to give you a handful more, just some irregular ones in a negative form, just so you have them for you. Then I'll give you some practice. So here's some other irregulars. For ofrecer, no ofrezcáis. No recojáis. And the reason on recoger why you have to change the G to a J is that if you don't, it would sound like no recogáis, but you want to keep the sound in recoger, so you change the G to a J. Satisfacer would be no satisfagáis. On that one, you just have to know the yo form of the verb is satisfago, and that's how you know it's satisfagáis. Seguir would be no sigáis. The yo form of seguir is sigo, and that's where that comes from. Construir is no construyáis. No deis. Notice there's no exclamation mark on that one. No vayáis. No seáis. No hayáis. No estéis. No sepáis. So that's all of the instruction I'm going to give you. I'm going to put several affirmative vosotros commands that I want you to write here on the screen, and several negative ones as well. And then I'll give you the answers. So here they are. Pause the video and write me down those 6 affirmative vosotros commands and the 8 or however many there are of the negative vosotros commands. Right now, pause the video, and then I'll give you my answers. So the answers are here on the screen now. I'm just going to say them to you so you can hear them. Tocad, bebed, salid, escondeos, hablaos, discutíos, no toquéis, no peguéis, no caséis, no vengáis, no os asustéis, no os aburráis, no distribuyáis, no cojáis, and no conozcáis. That's the end. Hopefully this video is helpful to you. If you have questions or if there's something on here that I did wrong, which is a possibility because this is still kind of new to me, and something I don't teach my students, but if there's something wrong and you know is wrong, please bring it to my attention so I can fix it. Again, if you have questions, ask me. Otherwise, thanks for checking out this video, and make sure to leave a thumbs up if it was helpful to you. Thank you.